Hi, welcome to Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, thanks for watching. Well, new and striking developments in the Democratic race for governor, plus State Senator is very passionate about the adoption of legislation that will permit the use of medical marijuana. All of that follows these words.
This is Pennsylvania Newsmakers, a fast-paced, unrehearsed weekly discussion with and about the leaders who shape your world. And now, here's your host, Terry Madonna.
Hi, welcome back to the show. Well, joining me, as often is the case, is Robert Vickers. He's with the Harrisburg Patriot News and PennLive. I've got to add PennLive because they're big on the internet. And so is Amy Worden's paper, right? Philadelphia Inquirer. I almost said Daily News, but you're owned by the same company, right? And what is it?
Inquirer.com.
Inquirer.com. There you go. We got that in. Everybody's happy now. All right, we're going to get into a whole variety, a bunch of subjects. New developments within the past 2 weeks in the Democratic gubernatorial primary. The winner will obviously face Governor Corbett, and then State Senator Mike Folmer is going to come on. He's very passionate about medical marijuana. I want to talk to him about that. Why does he think the legislature ought to do it? We'll get to that in a couple of segments from now. All right, Robert Vickers, I'm going to start with you. All of a sudden, this placid, calm, deliberative race was turned on its head, in a sense, by Allison Schwartz for two big reasons. Let's talk about those. Reason number one.
Well, reason number one, she's actually been saying this for a while to challenge the Old Boys Network in Harrisburg, which plays up her gender. But also this week, she's really wrapped herself in the Affordable Care Act. Last week, President Obama urged Democrats running in the midterm elections to take up the torch of Obamacare.
Right.
And she was one of the first two or three to really do it.
Yeah, and Amy, she did it in pretty spectacular fashion. I mean, she was on, I know she was on MSNBC at least once. I don't
Twice.
know.
Twice.
Twice, there you go. I said at least once, plus some other. Help hurt, I mean, what's particularly down where your paper covers,
well,
right?
Absolutely.
The coverage area.
Yeah, she needed to do something because clearly the polls are favoring Tom Wolf, although, as you mentioned earlier, we haven't seen one in a while, though I think we're going to get one in the next week or so. Tom Wolf is far ahead. The other candidates are now seeing that they need to, A, attack the front runner, and B, establish themselves as being different, as what is unique, how do I brand myself? And I think that's what you're seeing here with Allison Schwartz and Rob McCord as well.
Yeah, but you know what, Robert? I mean, both of you are covering these races. Amy's starting a series of biographies, by the way, in her paper, and you've been writing almost daily about the race, right? Well, no, this is important. We're glad you're doing it. You're keeping us informed. But the other thing about this is the kind of mild response that we're getting out of the other candidates is it's almost like they're ignoring any criticisms. You know, they make, I mean, the big thing a couple of weeks ago was Tom Wolf and Tom Wolf's loan. He gave his campaign $10 million, $4.5 million from, he borrowed he did borrow. And has that had any effect on this race? You've written about this.
Well, it seems like it's at least started some conversation. For so long, it seemed like the Allison Schwartz campaign and the Rob McCord campaign were looking at each other saying, you attack him first. No, you attack him first.
Good point.
And someone finally, Congresswoman Schwartz, actually came out swinging at a debate I think a week or so ago, hitting him on his campaign finances, asking him to show his figures, his tax returns, et cetera. Give some more information about the loan that he took out to finance the television ads that have been hugely successful in rocketing him to the top of the field. Yeah. And so it's really been, from that point on, sort of a shouting match, an air war between most of the Democratic candidates. And the interesting thing for me is that whenever one of these Democrat-on-Democrat attacks occur, the governor's reelection campaign sort of parrots it straight away.
Yeah. And then followed right on the heels of that was McCord. Stepping out and saying Tom Wolf is going to leave money on the table in his now sort of well-known severance tax ad. Yeah. Rob McCord's proposing the highest severance tax on natural gas drilling at 10%.
Right.
And while the others have also said theirs would be much lower in the 5% range, he went directly for Wolf on that one.
Yeah, I mean it's been I thought a pretty staid race. I mean it was hard. You all have written about how they agree on 90% of the issues, what's going to distinguish one from the other. we were talking before we began to tape the show that the severance tax issue, is that, as Amy just brought up, does that seem to you to have any merit? They're arguing over the differences in the size. Go ahead.
Well, any effort I think that the Republican-controlled legislature makes in addressing this issue regarding Marcellus Shale extraction, I think is a calculated gambit to try and take it off the table from whomever the eventual Democratic nominee will be in attacking the governor.
Right.
Now, still, whomever that will be, they'll come at the governor and say, well, you did it too late, it's not enough. But it is an effort, at least in the legislature, I think, to help the governor out.
All right, we're talking with Robert Vickers and Amy Worden, both reporters who are covering the gubernatorial election in our state. We'll be back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry, the statewide voice of business. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Highway Information Association, the go-to source to learn about transportation projects and issues. Please visit pahighwayinfo.org. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Well, it's all about the Democratic race for governor. It's 4 candidates seeking the nomination. Not a lot of polls, but, you know, Robert, you brought something up. No, let me start with Amy. Governor Corbett has an opponent. We wouldn't actually know that. I mean, because he's not going around the state. He has no money, but I think there has to be some concern that he might, you know, get a chunk of the Republican primary vote.
Right.
Talk about the candidate first.
Well, Delaware County businessman Bob Gazzardi is running in the primary against Corbett, and really the only reason we know about him is because his petition was challenged.
Right, to be on the ballot, yeah.
To be on the ballot by several citizens and backed by the Republican Party. He won the first round in that case. They are now appealing that to the Supreme Court, so that's kept his name in the news. Otherwise, I don't think we'd
spending
hear much
no money,
about
right?
As far as we know.
Oh, by the way, he was invited to appear on this show. We're trying to get all the candidates on. We've had the governor. Governor Corbett has a standing invitation. He's been on many times before. We'll probably have the governor on after the primary, because is there any chance that he can? I know we don't end elections, but
Sure.
Probabilities are not high, are they?
I wouldn't put any money on Governor Corbett not winning the Republican nomination, but he does have a difficulty
concern
with his base. When he came to the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference a couple of weekends ago, there was sort of a slow rising applause. There were people in the room who didn't stand, who didn't applaud. So it's definitely a concern there with his base. He's sort of a Mr. in between. He's not uber conservative, and he's not uber moderate either. So it's difficult for him to latch into where his core support is going to be.
And that's the fundamental problem. Some conservatives, some that were part of the Tea Party movement in 2010 that candidly helped him get elected. Remember, that was the big wave that struck. Is the big concern, particularly on some of the issues that you follow, right? You cover in the Capitol.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, I think there's a recognition that he needs to appeal to those moderates, particularly in the Southeast. So I think you've seen an orchestrated shifting to the center on a number of issues, on discrimination against gay people, on the health care, on the Medicaid issue, slight steps toward the middle on that, and so which is and the transportation plan, of course, which required increasing the gas tax. So I think he's going to find a hard line to have to play after May 20th in appeasing.
So typically you'd run to the right or the left in your primary and then back to the center, right? Right, then back to the center. He may have to run to the right in the primary, right, to make sure that Gazzardi doesn't get whatever, pick the number, 20, 30% of the Republican vote. That wouldn't be so good. All right, final question to you. What are we looking for? A couple of weeks to go. What are we looking? Any more? I mean, we had a little bit of a bombshell with the ACA, Affordable Care Act, and Allison Schwartz. I mean, is there pretty conventional other than that.
It's pretty conventional. As I said, it's really an air war, a PR war between these campaigns. They're all out around the state doing the stump stuff, but the stuff that's really making news are their attacks upon each other and the postures that they're taking to try and get some media attention.
Yeah, we didn't say anything. I'll get one more about Katie McGinty. Very popular in Democratic circles. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but doesn't seem to have the money, to go anywhere.
To get in the mix.
Yeah, to get in the mix. So.
Yeah, and she seems to be holding back in terms of getting in there and slugging it out with the others on.
Yeah, she's sort of the candidate who is trying to be nice and friendly to everyone. All right, thanks for coming on and doing this update. All right, big issue. It's all over the country. 80% of the voters of the state of Pennsylvania support medical marijuana. Upwards of over 80% in some of the surveys. We want to talk with State Senator Mike Folmer about it in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by Pennsylvania Credit Union Association. Pennsylvania Credit Unions, where people are worth more than money. To find a credit union that is right for you, check out ibelong.org. And by the Energy Association of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania's energy information source. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by the Hospital and Health System Association of Pennsylvania, working towards a healthy Pennsylvania, and by the Pennsylvania Coal Alliance, representing companies involved in America's most affordable, reliable energy source. To learn more, visit pacoalalliance.com.
We're back with State Senator Mike Folmer. He represents Lebanon. A part of Lancaster County, you're all in Lebanon now.
Actually, the new district is all Lebanon County, southern Dauphin County, and into northern York County.
You used to have some Lancaster, didn't you?
Yes, I had.
I have to bring that up as a Lancastrian. All right, Senator. Look, I don't think there's any doubt that one of the more controversial, highly debated subject is whether or not Pennsylvania should legalize medical cannabis, medical marijuana. You are strongly in favor of it. Briefly, why should the Pennsylvania legislature adopt medical cannabis?
Because I believe that this is an alternative medication for people who are fighting various illnesses. And I believe that I don't think that government should stand in the way between a person and their health care as their medical professional would prescribe it. Mm-hmm. And the goal of Senate Bill 1182 is just to give one more arrow into the quiver of a sick person to help them fight whatever their illness is.
And we do know on the record, and you had a hearing before a Senate committee, pretty riveting, by the way, pretty emotional. But there is no doubt medically that cannabis does help some people relieve suffering and seizures where other drugs do not work. Are you in agreement with that?
I am totally in agreement with that. And Charlotte Figi, the child who's the daughter of Paige and Matt Figi from Colorado, proves that. Yes, it's anecdotal, but you're talking about a child who was catatonic and they went through all their FDA-approved medication regimens and it just wasn't working. Mm-hmm. And after being on this dosage of the oil extracted from the organic plant, this Charlotte Webb strain, which is named after her, has not only can she walk and talk, her seizures have been reduced to almost nothing.
And we're talking here not about sort of what I'll call street marijuana, but marijuana that has been modified in order to get the products out of it that would help folks. Now, there's some, I'll be candid, there's some division with, in the medical community about this, and it's something that, we'll try to get some folks on later from the medical community to talk about it. All right, let's go now. What is in your bill? Just give us a couple of sentences about the bill.
Basically, what the bill would do is this. We would create a compassionate board, medical cannabis board, that would authorize the licenses of the growing of the particular strains of cannabis, which would have to be grown in a greenhouse scenario, number one. and they would have to approve their licenses. They would approve all the prescriptions that were be given. Basically, what we're trying to do, and to make a long story short, is to take the Wild West out of the cannabis scenario, that's going on right now, and bring it into a professional, to bring it into a professional medical environment.
Yeah, your argument then, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, would be folks are going to get it anyway. Let's do it prescribed properly and also in the right strain, if that's the right way to put it.
And what we're trying to do is make this not about the high, but about a medicine. And in most cases, when we're talking about medical cannabis, you're going to be looking at a 0.3% THC level, which means it would be like trying to get drunk on O'Doul's. I mean, in all honesty, so what we're trying to do is bring back and get it into the research and have Pennsylvania be a leader in this research.
Yeah, before we go to a break, chance of passage, I mean, as you know, things are tough. Pennsylvania legislature is badly divided, even though your party controls both houses of the legislature, is still badly divided. If you had to put where do you think it goes?
Well, I think I've done a good job in educating my fellow colleagues on the Senate side. I believe I would be able to get it passed out of the Senate. I just got to get it up on a floor vote. We're working on an amendment right now to the bill to try to make it more palatable to have it being passed. We're beginning to do an educational process over in the House, and my goal is just to educate.
Yeah, I have a question or two more with the Senator. We're going to run to a break on this, and then I want to, if we have time, I want to get to property tax. He's a supporter of property tax reform. In the polls that get done, this is listed. When you talk about taxes, this is the property tax that the voters, citizens of our state hate the most. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. Back in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care. This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Business Council and by the Pennsylvania Business Council Education Foundation.
Welcome back with State Senator Mike Folmer. We're talking about the legalization of medical marijuana, medical cannabis, as it's now often called. Senator, one other point is, you hear this, the concern about medical cannabis ultimately equals the flat-out legalization, concerns that if you do one, you're almost doing the other. How does your bill address that?
Well, my bill addresses it because, and the reason why we call it the Compassionate Use of Cannabis Act, Medical Act, is because we're talking about cannabis, and that's basically glorified hemp. And it doesn't have the same THC levels as what you would call the underground pot that is being used. It causes the high.
Causes the high.
Yeah, it causes the high, the buzz, whatever you want to refer to it as. Okay. And what we're trying to do is to bring this magnificent plan into its proper scope to be beneficial to humankind, not as something that could have harmful effects. And we don't know enough about this plan as far as its health risks, as far as the legalization of pot, period.
A lot more study
oh my goodness, yes. But on the medical side, to get derivatives of the oil and pills or vapor or whatever, it's a whole different animal.
All right, you're also, I'm going to look, one of the more important issues before the legislature for 40 years has been property tax reform, particularly school property taxes. There's a bill in the legislature, which you're a prime sponsor of, that would increase sales tax, increase income tax, eliminate the property tax. But there's some question about whether the bill, increase the property tax or the sales tax by 1%, 6 to 7, take the income tax up from whatever it is, 3.10.
It goes up 1.24.
Okay, but does that raise enough money to cover $11 billion, I understand? You've heard this before,
yes,
right?
Yes, and that's a great question. And I'm glad you asked that question, because There was some problems with Senate Bill and HB and SB 76. And we listened to the IFO report. We listened to the various business groups about some of the technical aspects of the bill that seemed like it just didn't work. Mm-hmm. We now know that the numbers work. We got that. We know the IFO report clears it up. We got the numbers. Two, without changing the policy of the bill, we listened to the opponents from the various groups who were opposing it for technical reasons, and we went through it painstakingly to address those issues. And we went back to those groups, and while they don't like the, let's say, the 1% increase of the sales tax and so forth, they do say, you addressed our technical aspects.
But there are winners and losers whenever.
Well, and there is.
Every time you change one tax to another, you create winners and losers. This debate has been going on for 40 years. I guess I'll ask you the same question I ask you about medical cannabis. Where's it going to go? We've been down this road before. It's in the Senate. Is there a scheduled vote? I mean, what's your sense of optimism?
It looks like we're going to be getting a vote to get it out of the Finance Committee, and hopefully to run it on the Senate floor sometime in May. Okay. And there's where we're at.
Now, you know, one of the fascinating things about it is, and this is an argument that I've heard over the years as I've covered this, is that school districts will benefit in a sense. You know, the school board members, they won't have to raise property tax and listen to constituents pound on their desk, pound on their doors about it. But you all will get the blame. They will get the credit. And lawmakers have told me in the past, well, wait a minute, I'm raising somebody's income tax and sales tax, but I'm not getting the credit for it. Do you hear that at all? Is that a concern or not a big one?
Well, actually, it's not. Whenever I address it at town halls and so forth, honestly, I went out looking for complaints because this is going to be the largest tax shift in Pennsylvania's history. We got to make sure we do this right. This cannot be done haphazardly. And I will tell you this, Terry, as I'm sitting here before you, we went through the bill like nobody's business. Mm-hmm. We know what's in the bill, and we addressed those technical aspects. It does work. Now, you may disagree. There may be those who disagree in the philosophy of the shift.
Sure.
But the bill does actually work.
Yeah. And we got about a minute left. I mean, again, we're down to the problem I keep talking about. The Senate seems to be more bipartisan, you guys, than the House. I don't want to get you into that, but the prospects for moving these big things, I mean, but you're optimistic, I can tell.
Well, we've worked really hard in the bill. I just would like to see a vote. Yeah. I just want to see a vote on both my bills, on the medical cannabis bill and on the school property SB 76 on the shift.
Well, I want to thank you for coming in. I really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back when this cannabis bill moves. All right, finally, let me say we'll see you next week for another edition of Pennsylvania Newsmakers, and as always, you stay well.